Well, good morning. No, good lunchtime. West Ham fans, Russ and the West Ham Network. Hope you're safe and well. Tim's making a list. He's checking it twice.
They'll lynch you, but he did, and he laughs at
Hello, everybody. Russ and the West Ham Network. Hope you are all safe and well. Happy Monday. Weekends go too quick, don't they? The weekends go far too quick. Now, obviously, the debacle that was the second half of the Brentford game. I think first half was very good. The second half of the debacle has opened up the conversation again about Mr. Moyes and his tenure at West Ham. Obviously, Anton did a great show this morning, giving his opinions about where he is, and I think that was really from the heart, really. But in terms of Moyes and also someone else, we'll talk about in a minute. Sean Wheaton has spoken. He spoke on Gonzo's channel the other day and mentioned that Mr. Tim Steiner is drawing up a list of replacements for David Moyes as a West Ham sack plan has been emerged. Obviously, when someone says, it's due diligence, really, in all honesty, in terms of having a list of the next manager. So it doesn't necessarily mean the Hammers are looking to sack Moyes maybe in the next couple of games if they don't win, potentially, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the end is nigh, so to speak, for David Moyes. It's good planning. It's good. That's the idea of having a director of football, a technical director, whatever you call him. It's good business practice to have a contingency plan. But apparently, Tim Steindl has identified possible new managers if things don't work out for the Scottishman going forward. He was quoted as saying, if we're in West Ham, people don't usually give others credit. Certain people will credit themselves. It's very rare, and I'm not saying more than this. There is a senior individual credits someone else, bigs up someone else. We're seeing a pattern here, and that pattern to me says something. I don't know, but that pattern, I've seen it before. The last thing I'll say on this is I've been told he is producing a list of possible replacements for manager. That doesn't mean David Moyes is going to get sacked. It just means that he isn't going to get a renewal. It doesn't mean he's not going to get renewal, but it's good business practice to have a contingency list, and we should have had one last season. We've got a technical director who can do that. He can create one. And then we've got a plan B. If Moyes throws in the towel, doesn't get refusal, if he goes at Christmas because he doesn't get to work with the transfer market, that's what we should be doing. It's a smart thing. It's a smart thing for West Ham to do, to have a backup plan. And obviously there's speculation around his position and whether come the January transfer window, there's further news revelations that basically it's Tim's way or the highway for Moyes in terms of the transfer targets, and they have to work together. And if they don't work together, then that is it for David. That's what the news has been coming out with. But it's not just David Moyes that Tim has been doing a list for. There's more than one list. As I said, he's got twice the lists, because apparently his priority in January is a replacement for Mikel Antonio, a 2.0. Tim has been putting together a second list, and this apparently is his priority. Tim Steiner has made signing a striker his priority for January. With this newfound authority he's been given now in club recruitment, he's assembled a list of potential targets in the striking department. Obviously, yesterday's loss against Saturday's loss against Brentford, clearly the shortage of forward options at West Ham, and even the one we're supposed to do if we don't play, for example. The mix-up between Sai Benrahma and Antonio at the far post would have been, we've gone 3-1, and that would have probably been enough. Or at least maybe should have got a draw now in West Ham. And obviously the situation didn't improve when Danny came on either. I think he made 5 touches in his second half cameo. None in the main box, unfortunately. And with Divine and Barmer on the bench, and Moyes not using him, it's blatantly clear that West Ham need a striker who can score goals, who can come in and do the job. Obviously, Antonio's been a loyal servant. at West Ham. He's the top Premier League goal scorer of all time at West Ham. That itself will be something which will probably not get taken over for a long time. And I mean, I think also with January coming in, also with the AFCONs coming in, you got to think someone like Mohamed Kudus, he scored, he's on fire, just like Bowen, but he's on fire as well. He won't be around. He'll be playing for Ghana in the African Cup of Nations. So that's a huge asset to our side, which won't be there. So there's a serious urgency in West Ham's recruitment effort to get a striker in or to get a couple of forwards in probably. And then utilising Antonio, arguably, as we utilise Danny Ings as the impact signing, as an impact substitution coming on. So you'll be seeing in the next few weeks, no doubt, more and more forwards that we've been linked to. We've been linked with the likes of Sergio Grossa from Stuttgart and Leonardo from Santos. And there's going to be even had Adam Hlosek from Bayer Leverkusen, the Czech Republic striker who we were linked to before we went to Leverkusen when he was at Sparta Prague. So there's going to be loads more forwards we're linked with in the next few days or next few weeks, that's for sure. But it is seen as a priority, particularly with the AFCONs. I think the AFCONs actually will benefit us in a weird way going forward because it means that rather than just relying on Kudus to get the goals, he's not going to be there. So we have to do something. And we have to do something urgently in January, the beginning of January, because halfway through January, they all fuck off for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And that's a critical time. There's loads of games. So we want someone also to come in and sort of hit the ground running a bit as well. But that will come with a price tag as well. A random League 2 striker will be cheaper than a League U striker, but a League U striker is ready to, or a Premier League striker is ready to come in and hit the ground running. And we sort of need that as well. So maybe even one or two. And again, Hugo Etikike from Paris Saint-Germain is another guy we've been linked to again. So keep an eye on that and see what happens. We talk about that sort of whole Tim Steidten list for Moyes. But what could be next for Moyes? A couple of really interesting stories have come up. One was in the Daily Mail, which claimed that David Moyes or West Ham executive are considering a new role for Moyes, moving upstairs at the London Stadium, which it's been in the Daily Mail. It's in the print edition of the Daily Mail today. So it's to come up with that sort of story, but online's different to in the paper because it's a finite number of stories in the paper. But to have this saying David Moyes may already be sport for choice when it comes to his West Ham contract expiring at the end of the season. After a turbulent summer, the Scots' future at the club was in doubt, despite him leading the Hammers to European Conference League glory. Issues over signings and direction were resolved to the extent that Moyes has remained in post, but sources have disclosed that it is unlikely a deal to extend his existing role. I think that's the party line, really, by what we've heard from various other sources, is the likelihood he's not going to get a renewal of his contract. Instead, West Ham executives are considering offering the 60-year-old the opportunity to move upstairs. They may, which is, I mean, I can't see that happening myself at all. We've already got issues with Tim Steidten and Moyes. We know that they're well documented. So moving him upstairs would give him even but just make it a higher level, the arguments. But what is interesting is the rest of the article. UEFA are known to be keen on utilising Moyes' experience and may well offer him some sort of technical position aimed at tapping into his 25 years in the dugout. We know Moyes has spent several of the recent international tournaments as a UEFA advisor, an observer. So clearly UEFA see the value of Moyes. So it could be that he's actually moved into a position within UEFA, a technical position within UEFA. So we'll wait to see what happens. But although personally, I think it's probably unless there's a massive continued downturn in form, as Anton says, the rot. I think he remains at West Ham until the end of the season, and then a change I think is expected after this season, potentially, in terms of not being renewed his contract. That's what we've seen. Clarence Hughes, Sean, that's sort of what's been mentioned in passing, and I think that's probably the most likely outcome. But his future is far from straightforward at the moment. Big decisions for him to move, for for West Ham in terms of moving ahead, it seems. But with the potential of moving upstairs and a role at UEFA, there'll be plenty of movement for him to sit down and obviously assess options. I think it depends also about January in terms of the transfer window. I think the proposition of going to UEFA would be an interesting one to him, a change of scenery, getting him away from the Premier League and the pressures of being a Premier League manager as well. But we shall see. We shall see. But I thought it's quite interesting how it's like, Tim's putting this list together in the same way he's putting the list around Antonio's replacement and David Moyes' replacement. And Moyes seems to have a couple of options as well in terms of where he could go. I think the move up the chain at West Ham, I can't see that one happening personally, because that's what Tim Steinden's job is now. So I can't see, unless it's it wouldn't be an ambassadorial role or anything like that, I would think. So I don't think so. But I think the UEFA job would be of interest to him as well. And that's it, my friends. Thank you very much for your time, as always. If you're new around here, give it a like, give it a comment, give it a share, give it a subscribe. Olympiacos and Nottingham Forest this week, both at home. What could possibly go wrong with West Ham? And obviously, with Nottingham Forest winning against Aston Villa, the side that everyone was telling me are so good, and Emery's a genius. They've lost to Forest at City ground, so hopefully we can beat them. But we'll wait and see. Take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay humble, keep the faith, my friends, and we'll see you soon. All right.